Hello, and welcome back to the Morrissey and Wine podcast. I'm George.
And I'm Chris.
And we're here to bring you an hour of Morrissey and the Smiths goodness, some news, some song lyric dissection, all sorts of different bits. If you're listening for the first time, I'll introduce myself. My name's George. I'm a newspaper journalist based in the East Midlands, and this is Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris, and based in Manchester, which is where we're doing the podcast from today. I dragged you up here.
Yes, I got the train, the very expensive, annoying, packed train. I hate the trains.
But you couldn't quite bear to get from the train station here. I had to come and pick you up.
Yeah, I don't like the tram either. Well, because it's not direct. You have to walk 10 minutes each end. It's terrible, Chris. So, before we get into the podcast, let me fill the listeners in on something weird that has happened, which makes me think Morrissey might be a listener to this show. If you are listening, Morrissey, hello, how are you? Hope you're well. I am well. So, last time, we had Jessica Adams on the show. She did a tarot and psychic reading for Morrissey. And the first question that we asked was, will we be seeing a Morrissey album within the next year? And Jessica pulled out the Hanged Man, which is a card in the tarot pack. It's a man hanging upside down. I'm looking at it now, actually. A man hanging upside down with like red tights. He's got sort of a bit of a halo going on behind his head, sort of hanging upside down from a tree. He's not dead, he's just sort of suspended. Anyway, so Jessica said, this is a man dangling upside down in a pair of rather nice red tights. And while he is dangling and waiting, he becomes enlightened. So the answer is nothing. So she was saying the answer is there's going to be no album. Then when Morrissey announced his Las Vegas shows on July 26 and 27, he said, having hung upside down for several months, I am now in good health, like an arrow fully drawn and waiting to be fired. Please fling me. And
spooky.
It is spooky, and it's like such an odd phrase to use. And, you know, someone did mention to me, someone sort of closer to Morrissey, that they had sent him the first podcast episode. And I thought, well, you know, there's one thing to send it to him. It's another thing if he's actually going to bother to listen to it. You know, why should he? But this little reference, I don't know, Chris, what do you think? Is it too much of a coincidence?
I mean, I'm cynical, but I think it's too much of a weird line, and it's too relevant to the last. I don't know.
The only problem
I can't let myself believe it.
Yeah, that's it. And also, if we do believe it, then it's sort of like you're doing an exam at school and the teacher's standing over your shoulder, you know, while we're recording this.
Mr. Morrissey.
And I don't want to get dragged into that kind of conspiracy way of thinking, because it's just silly. But it's a bit of fun. You know, I think it's possible that he was making a reference. And if he did, thank you, Morrissey, and I hope you enjoy the show. Also, other bit of good news, the Morrissey Mercury fanzine has been shortlisted for an award.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. A national award. It's the Publisher Newsletter Awards. We have been shortlisted in the category for hobbies and special interests, and the other entries in that category are actually like proper publications. Like there's the Financial Times newsletter, a witch newsletter, as in WHICH. There's The Economist, one of their newsletters. So these are like proper big boys, you know.
That's really good news. You put a lot of work into it, so...
Yeah, and I thank you. And yeah, I do, but also, you know, we have a lot of contributors, regular contributors, who are coming up every month with articles, and that's what fills the fanzine, so thank you, you know, to them. Now, I think, Chris, it's time for a bit of wine.
Okay.
What have we got today?
Today we have red wine.
We've got white or red.
Yeah, red. That's about as far as it goes. A Merlot.
Yeah.
Or Merlot.
Merlot,
okay. Chile, 2019.
Yeah, it's a Casiera del Diablo, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Good year, apparently.
No, and that is £7 at Sainsbury's, discounted from £8. So let's pour that wine. Thank you. I see you've rinsed the glasses, but they're still a bit murky.
They just get a bit dusty on the shelf.
Thank you
There
very
you go.
much. And once Chris has finished pouring the wine, we will talk about what's coming up on this month's podcast episode. Chris, would you like to take it away?
Sure. So coming up, we have news from the world of Morrissey and the Smiths. we react to a YouTube video entitled "Why Does Everybody Hate Morrissey from the Smiths?" We don't.
Yes, it'd be a weird podcast if we did, wouldn't it?
We will go back to doing the quiz, and I'm the quiz master this time.
Yes.
So good luck, George.
Thank you.
We've got, again, backed by popular demand again, Nanny Val reacts.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really interesting. We did some flyering at the All About Andy Moz Army, and that was the thing that people were really keen to hear about.
Yeah.
They loved that.
People kept saying, I love your Nanny Val.
And which song is...
Oh, she's going to do Once I Saw the River Clean.
Okay, quite a new song.
Yeah.
A great song. We'll also recommend a few things. So if you love Morrissey, you'll love this. We did this last time. We'll dissect the meaning of 3 Morrissey and Smith songs.
Yes. Cool, okay, so that is everything. Let's take a little break and then we'll go into news from the world of Morrissey. So, news from the world of Morrissey and the Smiths. What's been happening, Chris?
Well, we talked last time about there being some dates coming up, some Morrissey tour dates. We can see him in the flesh. And there has been 2 dates announced in Vegas, Las Vegas, for the 26th and 27th of July at the House of Blues.
You've bought tickets, haven't you?
I have bought tickets, and reasonably priced tickets to see Morrissey in America. That's quite a turn up.
How much did they cost?
They were just over $100, I think, which is...
Right,
each. Because normally Ticketmaster have this horrible thing where I think they call it dynamic pricing, which means they rip you off.
Yeah,
But that didn't happen this time. And there's GA as well, which is always best.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're not sure if you're actually going to be able to afford the flights and the hotel and everything?
Yeah, I don't know. We have got to GoFundMe. No, yeah, the flights are pretty steep to go, because I think July's a busy time for Vegas.
Yeah, I wish I could go. I just can't really afford it. But I was really hoping for some UK dates. Maybe they will come. Who knows?
If you are listening, we do really want some UK dates. Or Europe dates generally.
Yeah, Europe's good because you get a chance. If it's like France, that's a cheap plane ride and it's like a mini holiday, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I don't mind European dates. Happy with as long as UK or European, that's fine. Okay, next, I just wanted to let everyone know how much money was raised at Moz Army this year. So that was the All About Andy event, All About Andy Rock. His family were there. Mike Joyce was there.
Yep.
Loads of people paying tribute to him. It was a beautiful night. Anyway, they have raised £5,245 for cancer charity the Christie. The Christie was chosen by Andy Rourke's family. And so that's all, like the ticket sales and the raffle and, everything. I thought that was fantastic. I mean, Julie has now stepped down from running the Moz Army. In her time, which is about, I think, 11 years of doing Moz Army, she's raised tens of thousands of pounds for charity, which is amazing. Now, you might have seen on Twitter and Instagram, I am going to be taking over Moz Army from Julie, and I'll be running next year's event. I mean, I'm really nervous, but you said you will help me, didn't you, Chris?
I'll give you some minor support.
Minor support, yeah. You'll definitely be doing the raffle.
Yes, yeah. I think the raffle was a big contribution to the. No, but Julie did a great job, and I think we said this before, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but. I've been going since probably the second one, and it's been an amazing night every year, best night, highlight of the year. So and money for charity is great.
And if you're listening and you've got some ideas of what you think might be good at next year's Moz Army, please send me an email, send me a DM, whatever. I'm open to mixing things up a bit, and I'll probably, in all honesty, do like a slimmed down almost said slimmed down monarchy.
Okay, Charles.
Slimmed down Moz Army, just because it's my first year and it needs to be, handleable for me.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there's going to be a tribute band. There's going to be some guests. There's going to be a Q&A. Mozioki hopefully will make a comeback.
Nice.
People love that.
They do.
I promise to do my very best, and wish me luck. What else has been happening?
So has Morrissey signed a record contract?
Right, yeah. I mean, so he put out this quote in the statement that we talked about. Another quote was, Do you want to read that, Chris?
Yeah, so for those of you 85 and over who are still waiting for Bonfire of Teenagers to be released, good news, it's finally within our grasp.
Yeah, good news is within our grasp. So I thought that sounds like Morrissey has signed a record deal. He just hasn't announced it yet. So I asked on Instagram and Twitter, I did a little poll. And on Instagram, 69% of people said yes, he has. And on Twitter, 68% of people said yes, he has. So there's a strong feeling that, you know, he's signed a deal. It's probably if it's happened, it's within the final stages. So Morrissey hasn't been able to announce it yet.
Yeah.
But it's good that like people believe in him.
Yeah.
They believe good things are happening. You know, because you know you spend time on some forums or whatever, and you get the feeling that there's a lot of negativity around Morrissey with Morrissey fans. But to have that sort of seal of approval, people say yes, we think he's signed one in this difficult climate for record contracts.
Yeah,
it's good, isn't it?
Very exciting. Yeah.
And then just finally, Dana Gillespie, who did the cover of "Spent the Day in Bed," which I liked. There was I just wanted to mention, there's just a little article online in a showbiz site that Morrissey had taken Dana Gillespie for tea. Okay. I liked the way it was written. Like as a newspaper man, it was just written. The article's written in a very like journalistic way. It said Morrissey was so impressed by Dana's interpretation that he took her out for tea at a posh London hotel.
Ooh.
Posh London hotel, and. And they refer to him as Morrissey as a reclusive star. Reclusive star Morrissey. It's just like journalistic way of writing. But that's nice because I think Morrissey had said to her that he preferred her version than his. Okay. Which is quite a seal of approval, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very flattering. Yeah.
So I'll just mention the fanzine. If you've not yet subscribed, that is free. It's called The Morrissey Mercury. It is now award nominated. So you can sign up for the Morrissey Mercury fanzine. That we're going to do the next issue in the next few days. We're recording this on Saturday the 8th of June. So in the next few days, the new issue will come out. Then we're going to go quarterly. So the next issue after that will be in the autumn. You'll find lots of different articles about Morrissey and the Smiths from various writers. There's interviews, there's a doodle of the month, there's a bootleg of the month, so you can subscribe to that. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Morrissey Mercury. Follow us on Twitter at Morrissey Merc. You can join our WhatsApp community where you will get breaking news alerts for everything Smiths and Morrissey. Now I don't spam people. Like, sometimes we'll go 2 weeks without a message. Yeah. But it's just, like, the important stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. It's really useful.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. So we did, when the Las Vegas gigs were announced, we put that out. And we also told people what the pre-sale code was, when they would be able to get the pre-sale tickets. So it's that sort of thing. Now, all of this stuff, if you just go on our Twitter account, at Morrissey Merc, and click the link in our bio, you'll see the options to subscribe for the fanzine, the podcast that you're currently listening to, and the WhatsApp.
Great.
Yeah, great indeed. Now, what are we doing next, Chris?
We're going to find out why everyone hates Morrissey.
Yeah, this video, why does everybody hate Morrissey from the Smiths, which kind of incensed us. So
yeah, it's very intriguing. Let's look at that, unpack that.
Okay, off we go.
Well, first of all, Morrissey is really, really arrogant. Every time he speaks in interviews, or even with fans or other musicians, he sounds like the most pretentious douchebag in the world. Even if you ignore some of his horrible takes, just the way he talks and the way he tries to make everything he says sound really intelligent and profound just makes you want to rip your hair off.
So that was the opening of a video on YouTube called Why Does Everybody Hate Morrissey from the Smiths? We're going to react to the main points of this video. Now, I'm just going to say, some people don't like Morrissey, and that is absolutely fine. Some people don't like his music, some people don't like his politics, some people don't like him because he's a bit gay. There's lots of reasons why people might not like him. There's also lots of reasons why you can like him, which of course we're familiar with. This point, though, this opening gambit from this YouTuber is that he tries to sound clever. Like, that's a bad thing. I mean, Frank Skinner has this thing about the word pretentious. He says, whenever someone says you're being pretentious, it's like they're saying stop being clever. There's nothing wrong, is there, with trying to sound profound, with trying to sound interesting and clever?
No, and it's rich coming from this guy who's got the most annoying voice and sounds very pretentious.
Now, you're studying philosophy with the Open University, because you should know that that's an ad hominem attack. So we shouldn't attack him just for the person that he is.
I think you can do that.
But no, you're right. This guy on the video is trying to sound clever by taking down someone else, I think. So yeah, I get what you're saying. But no,
Trying but failing to sound clever.
yeah, isn't it a good thing to reach for cleverness, to reach for profound ideas?
Yeah, it's better than the other.
Yeah, the being intentionally thick because you don't want to be controversial in any way.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, let's listen to the next section.
Another example of Morrissey's arrogance is his beef with the Cure's frontman, Robert Smith, that started when he was asked, "If I put you in a room with Robert Smith, Mark E. Smith, and a loaded Smith & Wesson, who would bite the bullet first?" And Morrissey answered with, "I'd line them up so that one bullet would penetrate them simultaneously. Robert Smith is a winchbag." Again, this is pretty funny coming from Morrissey, who literally built a career on being a winchbag. But don't worry, because Robert Smith responded really maturely with, "Morrissey is so depressing. If he doesn't off himself soon, I probably will."
So the beef with Robert Smith, I mean, isn't this ancient history?
It is ancient history, and I think it's a really odd thing to try and take Morrissey down for, because, you know, Oasis, Blur, Madonna, and whoever Madonna hates, like that's pop culture history.
But when it's Morrissey, it's not allowed.
Yeah, when it's Morrissey, yeah, exactly. Now, like, if you read what he said literally about the gun and Robert Smith, like, that's violent imagery. But we both laughed when we heard it. It's obviously a joke.
Yeah.
And, you know, they know that at the time there was a lot of crossover. Well, you probably wouldn't publicly admit that you like both, but a lot of people liked the Cure and the Smiths. They are, in fact, my two favourite bands.
Yeah.
So it was convenient to have a rivalry between the two of them. They probably didn't care. They just said you had to say funny stuff in interviews, right? So, you know, this YouTuber does go on to make more serious points, and we'll talk about those. But this one, I mean,
It not relevant really.
no, it just shows no appreciation of how pop music works.
Yeah, exactly.
Just odd. But let's listen to the next section.
The main thing that made me stop supporting him is his very right-wing political views. When you listen to songs like The Queen is Dead and Margaret on the Guillotine, you'd think that his political views would be at least left-leaning, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. In 2007, in an interview for the NME, he said, "You'll hear every accent under the sun, apart from the British accent in Knightsbridge." His hypocrisy has no end, because not only his parents are immigrants, but every member of the Smiths were second-generation Irish, which means all of their parents were immigrants. But I guess being an immigrant is fine only when you're white.
Okay, so this guy, we should just credit who this is actually. And you know what? I just want to say, you are entitled to your opinion. Like, that's absolutely fine that he doesn't like Morrissey. This is not like a hate response. But so the chap is called Krysis, Krysis, and you can find the video on YouTube. Anyway, his beef here is that Morrissey is right wing. Well, there's two elements. He explicitly says his right-wing views are a problem. Then he discusses the Knightsbridge thing with the colour of racism, you know, that. So there's two separate points here. But you can't just say you hate someone because they're right-wing. I mean, I personally, left-wing, libertarian sort of leaning person, I don't hate right-wing people. That's why there's wings, because people are all over the place.
Well, you can now because you can cancel culture. You have to pick a side, and that's your side. You can't have nuance or anything else. You have to be extreme one or the other.
Yeah, and that's really sad.
That's why it's okay to say the Queen is dead, but not that Robert Smith needs lining up and shooting.
Yeah, exactly. Or Margaret on the Guillotine. This guy seems to be quite happy with
the idea of beheading
Margaret Thatcher. Yeah. So that's weird. But the other aspect is the thing he says, you know, you can't walk down Knightsbridge, you can't hear an English accent in Knightsbridge. Well, that's an extreme view, I think. I think it's not entirely based in reality. I mean, I do speak to older people sometimes who will say to me, you know, it's quite disconcerting for me to walk through the city centre of where I live and to see all these people from all these different nationalities. And these aren't racist people. They're just saying, it's weird. This isn't the same place that I grew up in, you know. So there are people who think that, and, you know, Morrissey, I guess, is one of those people. And we have to listen to all voices, right? You can't just whitewash certain opinions and only hear... Well, I mean, what do you think?
No, I agree. I think I mean, I suppose if you go to Hugh Mazda down the road, it's like United Nations in there. And I don't have a problem with that. I think it's can be quite nice. I think sometimes maybe where I can sympathise with the view is that you maybe can't interact with people the same as you would if I was back in the village where I'm from. I don't know, and I can see why that might not be the nicest thing, but I don't. Yeah.
But the world changes. So I you know what, if I was having a chat with Morrissey and he said something like that, I'd say, look, I totally respect what you're saying. Do you think that that's necessarily a bad thing? I mean, all he does is say it. He doesn't say, and this is terrible, or So I don't know. It's a fair criticism if you believe that Morrissey is being racist when he says it. But is he, or is he just stating a subjective view of the world that he has, in his experiences? Not sure. Let's go into the next section.
There's this great article by Mungle Media that I'm gonna link down below, which inspired me to make this entire video. The article is titled, "Morrissey isn't senile, he's always been a racist," and talks about Morrissey's horrible lyrics on some of his solo songs that people just kind of seem to ignore. Some of these songs are Bengalian Platforms, England for the English, Asian Rut, and This Is Not Your Country. And if you needed any more proof of what audience Morrissey is attracting, just have a look at the comments on the YouTube videos of these songs.
Has this guy listened to the songs? Is he just reading the titles and the word Asian or Asia is in there, so that must be bad? I mean, that song especially to me is Asian Rut is the complete opposite. It's anti-racist. I mean, one of the lines that always stands out for me, which I mean, I'm white, but it always makes sense to me is that, "Oh, English boys, it must be wrong, 3 against 1." That's kind of the opposite. That always shouts out to me that someone's being bullied, and the Asian boy's being bullied.
Yeah,
the guy hasn't listened to the songs. He's completely inept.
I mean, yeah. So Asian Rut. I mean, this is. So that he mentions 4 songs: Bengalian Platforms, the National Front Disco,
which he calls England for the English.
The National Front Disco, he calls England for the English. Yeah, Bengali, National Front Disco, Asian Rut, and This Is Not Your Country. Asian Rut, just because the guy is Asian, it doesn't mean that he's being racist. This YouTuber, by the way, bleeps out the word fascism because he can't bear to hear it.
Oh dear.
I mean, by the way, fascism is a terrible, terrible thing, but he's obviously so sensitive.
Why is he sensitive to that? What's going on?
I don't know. It's the world of trigger warnings.
Insane.
Isn't it? Trigger warnings, by the way, studies have shown that trigger warnings do nothing, and in fact, actually make the reaction worse.
But they surely make people more sensitive and more paranoid and more precious.
Yeah. But to return to these songs, so Bengalian Platforms, there's a line in that when he says, "Shelve your Western plans, it's hard enough when you belong here." Now it is an interesting line. It's problematic. I admit it is problematic, but life is problematic, and you can't just stick to saccharine, easy.
But that's the real experience, probably, isn't it? That being somewhere maybe don't feel like you belong.
Yeah, but obviously the idea that it could be racist comes from the fact that by inference, Morrissey's saying this Bengali person doesn't belong here. So if you say to someone you don't belong here, it means you need to leave. So I do get that, but basically it's a nuanced idea, and it's not necessarily racist. It's about what did Morrissey really mean, and we don't know. The National Front Disco is a song about a character who is whisked away by the romance of joining the National Front, and he does say in the song "England for the English." That's one of the refrains. I can't remember in the lyrics if that's in quote marks or not, but it essentially is. It's what the character would say. Yeah. Morrissey isn't saying England for the English. He's referencing what this character believes. But what I will say is I've been to nights where Morrissey and the Smiths is playing, and when that song comes on, sometimes people do sing England for the English with a certain fervour, which makes me uncomfortable. So I'm not here to say there's no such thing as racism in the Morrissey community. There is some of it. And Morrissey in recent years has attracted a fan base in the alt-right. I don't know if Morrissey's comfortable with that or not. I imagine not. But we can't just do this whole reaction and just say Morrissey's a saint and all of his work is perfect and there's no problematic elements, because there are, right? I mean, in every clever artist there will be problems. We've talked about Asian Rut. This Is Not Your Country. Well, that's if the song was about an English person talking to an immigrant, then that song would be incredibly problematic. But that song is about the English, isn't it? The British, or the English rather, saying to people in Ireland, "This is not your country." Isn't that? It's not one of my songs that I listen to a lot, but isn't he talking about other people coming into Ireland and saying, "This is not your country. This is our country now"? Isn't that what that song is about?
Yeah, but why is that different to? Why is that okay?
Well, because
Ireland's a country that's, I don't know. What's the difference?
Well, let's just pause. We don't really know much about the Troubles and all that stuff, and it's incredibly sensitive. So all I will say is I don't think that song is what it says on the tin. I think there's more nuance, and it's about a different perspective than you think it is. But, you know, if you're going to be an intelligent artist, you have to tackle difficult topics, right? You have to.
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking that if you look at the charts, you don't need to do that.
Well, no, but they're not so intelligent, really. A lot of them in the charts.
But they are popular.
They are popular. So, I know this one's a bit 50-50, but I just think it would benefit everyone to just think about things a bit more, and not just because a song is called Asian Right, it doesn't mean it's racist. You know.
The guy hasn't listened to the song, has he?
No.
Or doesn't understand how to.
It's probably just all beeped out.
How to read lyrics? It's all bleeped. Yeah, exactly. You can't bear to hear things.
Yeah. All right, let's listen to the next section.
They also talk about how in the 90s, Morrissey's concerts became a place for the NF and C19 to organize after he famously went on stage wearing a huge Union Jack flag, which basically became a sign of him supporting the rising fascism in 90s Britain. To top it all off, he also said that black people and white people will never really get on or like each other. But how can he say all of this horrible stuff, you might ask? I thought he was vegan. Don't worry, because he didn't forget to use that as a way to support his far-right policies. In 2011, in response to the far-right attacks in Norway, Morrissey said, "That is nothing compared to what happens in McDonald's and Kentucky Fried shit every day."
Oh no, he had a flag on stage. The biggest crime you can do now, I think.
Yeah, do you think at the National Front rally?
Just thank God it wasn't a St George's flag. That'd be even worse. The Union flag's sort of done a resurgence recently, but yeah.
I mean, it's often said that why can Jerry Halliwell wear a Union Jack dress, but Morrissey can't hold a Union Jack flag?
Absolutely.
But, you know, like, we don't really know what Morrissey's intention was with that flag. I like to believe that he was being patriotic and trying to... it was a few years before the Cool Britannia thing, wasn't it? You know, maybe he was presaging that, teeing that up.
Trend setting.
Yeah.
But no, I've seen Morrissey wear nearly every the flag of all nations nearly.
He does.
On every, you know, the Mexican flag all the time. You know, that's something he does.
Yeah.
To appreciate the audience and.
We weren't around at this time, well, maybe we were just born, but the NME famously really dragged Morrissey for holding this flag, and they said, did a headline that kind of suggested that he was flirting with extreme nationalism and racism and whatever. That was, the NME chose to do that. They could have interpreted that in several different ways.
But they also put the picture right on the cover, didn't they? So it was a big, the whole cover. So what was the point of that? Was it in that article, in that issue where they said he's a big racist? On the same issue, they put a picture of him on the front.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Well, you know, because I think at the time...
They can sell a magazine if
Morrissey sold magazines, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we do have to talk about, in this video, they referred to the fact that Morrissey had this quote. So I'll just read from the article. So, he told Q magazine in 1992 that he, quote, didn't really think, for instance, that black people and white people will ever really get on or like each other. Now, we can choose to take that at face value, that he really did say that, or we can choose to think that he might have been slightly misquoted, or it was in the context of a wider discussion. I don't know. On the face of it, that's really not a good thing to say. You know, it's obvious that white people and black people can get on.
But is he talking about general? If you look at general, you know, the general society, the fact that there is issues, race issues, that could be the case. I'm sure he's not talking about individual cases because, as we know, intelligent people can get on no matter what they look like, who they are. But if it's, you know, if you look at history, if you look at society in multicultural countries, there is big issues. So maybe that's, I mean, this was a while ago as well. But even recently, there's the BLM stuff. So
Yeah. Okay. So what you're saying? He could be saying, you know, people of different identities in the identity politics world. People of different identities will never fully get on because there's always this give and take. There's always going to be arguments. There's always going to be differing priorities. There may be something in that. I think this goes back to the point that I'm trying to make, that you have to slow down. So you read something like that, you need to think, well, what are the possible angles on this? But on the face of it, I will admit that is not a good thing to say, and it seems a bit racist. So, you know, we can't speak for Morrissey. I imagine, knowing how these kind of interviews tend to work, that quote was in a much wider context, and it was easy to just pull out that quote. And
I think that's the case. I think he's talking more generally, not two thinking people, black and white, intelligent thinking people obviously can get on, and Morrissey knows that, I'm sure, and he wouldn't say that. I think it's more looking at history, looking at the problems that are there, to think it's easy to look at that and think, oh, it's hopeless. How will it ever, how will the masses ever get on in that way?
Okay, well, let's listen to the next section.
He uses veganism as a way for him to make an excuse for his hate towards minorities, something that's called white veganism. A clear example of this is him saying in 2010, "Did you see the thing on the news about their treatment of animals and animal welfare? You can't help but feel that the Chinese are a subspecies." Something that he refuses to apologize for, just in case you thought he felt bad for his words. There's like a million more examples of Morrissey being a hateful and horrible person, and I don't think anyone is that surprised it turned out like this. The main reason why I wanted to make this video isn't so I could play devil's advocate with Morrissey. He is and always has been a horrible person, and I don't think that's up for debate.
Right, okay, well, I don't like this Morrissey quote. I get what he's trying to say. So he's saying that if you are so horrible if a group of people are so horrible to another species, then they essentially rank lower than that species. So if humans are as horrible to animals as I guess we are, then in Morrissey's view, we rank less than animal species. But I remember when this interview came out, I think it was with Simon Armitage in The Guardian. He's saying that all Chinese people are horrible to animals. Well, that's not true. Some may be, as are some British people and so on. He's saying all Chinese people are so horrible to animals that they rank below those animals. And I think Simon Armitage said Morrissey likes to throw a pebble in the pool and see what happens. And I think that's what he was doing here. And I don't think he chose his words very well. I don't know what you think, Chris.
No, I agree. I think we've all seen the video. I think a lot of people have seen the videos of people who look Chinese eating like live squids or octopus and tentacles and thinking, and it moves. They put a salt on it, and it's really cruel. But I think that happens in lots of different cultures. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I keep saying through this section, we can't just defend everything Morrissey says like he's a saint. We all make mistakes. Like, I don't think Morrissey has backed down from that statement.
I think this one as well, and I firmly believe, and I say at the end, that I don't believe Morrissey's racist, and but I do think this is the one that always sticks. This is the one people remember.
Yeah.
And you've got the quote there, so anything that this guy said of his video, by the way, I don't know for sure if it's true. I don't know. We looked at it.
To be fair, yeah, most of the stuff that he quotes is like he brings up the article.
But that's fair enough. But I think that this is the one that sometimes is used, because as a Morrissey fan, you always get people who say, "Oh yeah, but Morrissey, like if you like the Smiths and Morrissey," but this is the one that people seem to talk about a lot. This one line, so it is quite hard work for us Morrissey fans, I think.
Yeah, it can be.
And then the white veganism, what does that mean? Do you know?
I have no idea what white veganism is. I think essentially he's saying it's a system of beliefs where because you're vegan and white, you can be horrible to other cultures who aren't vegan and consider yourself superior to them.
Oh, one of those again. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's from the wonderful world of woke.
Yeah. So I shouldn't be a vegan. I don't know.
Well, that concludes our reaction to that video. If you want to watch it, you can find it on YouTube. It's called Why Does Everyone Hate Morrissey from the Smiths? It's by Krysis, Krysis. We don't hate you, Krysis, and we hope that you don't hate us. We just wanted to respond and I think he's totally entitled to his opinion, as are we, and, be interested to hear your thoughts after watching the video. Send us a message or an email and let us know. How are you enjoying the wine, by the way, Chris?
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
It's pretty nice.
Mostly through it now.
Yeah, almost. Well, we've got about a third of a bottle left, which is quite good for us. So next we are going to go into the quiz. So are you ready? Have you got your questions ready?
Yes, I've got the questions ready.
Okay, let's take a short break and we'll come back.
Welcome back to the Morrissey quiz. This week we have George. Was George's education a waste of time? We'll find out. It's time to banish the buffoon. Dump the dead wood. Eject the idiot.
Ouch.
You're ready?
I love a quiz. I'm gonna win this
Are you?
quiz. Yes, I've come prepared. I love Moz.
Did you revise?
Preview.
Question 1.
Yes.
Sleep and dream of love is a lyric from which song?
Well, Christopher, the producers told me to explain my thinking before I came on the quiz. So every answer I have to explain.
And get the answer at the end.
Yeah, to give people time at home to think of the answer. Now, I believe this one is November Spawned a Monster.
Correct. Yes, and you can play along at home as well. So that's one correct answer.
Yeah.
Question number 2. In which part of Manchester is the Iron Bridge?
Iron Bridge. My auntie Iron. The Iron Bridge is in Stretford / Old Trafford.
I need to take one answer.
Oh, Stretford.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Stretford. It is in Stretford. The Stretford Gloom.
Mm.
You ever been to Stretford Mall?
No.
You don't want to.
I haven't had the pleasure.
No, that really is the arse of the world.
And hello to our listeners in Stretford Mall.
I think it's being done up though, so
Okay.
there's light at the end of the horrible tunnel. Question number 3. True or false? Morrissey worked for the Inland Revenue.
Frankly, Mr. Shankly, he did indeed work for the Inland Revenue Service.
Correct. Well done.
Which was covered in the film England Is Mine.
Can you for an extra point? Can you guess what he said he'd rather do than work at the Inland Revenue?
Clean baboons' bottoms.
Close. The bottom bit that he said he'd prefer prostitution.
Okay.
But I can't give you that one. Okay. So, who was the youngest Smith?
I know Morrissey was the oldest.
Don't age shame.
I'm gonna. I have a feeling that Johnny Marr was only like 19 or 20, and Morrissey was like 27 or 6. So I'm gonna guess Johnny Marr.
Final answer?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Oh.
The youngest Smith was Andy Rourke.
How old was he when they started?
I don't have that answer, but he was born on the 17th of January, 64.
64. Well, the Smiths started in 83, so
You do the math.
I'm rubbish at mental maths, so you could do the maths at home.
Yeah, right in.
Yeah.
We'll give you time. Okay, not doing too badly. We're sort of almost halfway there.
Yeah. Can I have some wine, please?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We are a little bit. We did go out last night, didn't we? We haven't mentioned this yet. We went to the Smiths disco. We timed it very well, didn't we? Question number 5. Who is in the band lineup for the Vegas shows?
Oh. Okay. Carmen.
Yes, that's one.
Jessie.
5. Yes.
I know Brendan's committed to a Shakira tour, I think, which is funny, like Morrissey and Shakira. So Brendan's not drumming.
I think there's links between Shakira and Morrissey.
Yeah.
Voice.
His jaw don't lie.
No. Yeah.
There's the other female musician whose name I'm struggling to remember. I'm actually really bad at the band because they change so often, Chris. So I'm afraid I can only give you two.
Two.
Yeah.
So that's sort of
So it's Carmen and Jessie.
40% right of the question. So, yeah. So you're right about Carmen and Jessie. Jessie's been there a while, as we know. Carmen, Camilla.
Oh, Camilla, of course.
Camilla as well, and then bringing back as well Solomon Walker.
Yeah.
And Matthew Walker.
Oh, brilliant.
Solomon on bass and Matthew on drums.
Brilliant. Okay.
So yeah. Great. So you got 40% of that one.
Yeah.
I worked that out at the end. Halfway there. Question number 6. In what year was Autobiography released?
2011.
Close. 2013.
Oh dear.
What's your favourite bit of the Autobiography? Can you remember? Mine is the I love the interaction with Charles Hawtrey, where he sort of he says he's waiting for the receiver, and it comes. He just ignores him.
I liked, to be honest, I liked the descriptions of the relationships that Morrissey's had because he's never really talked about them publicly.
Yes, yeah.
And just to see what Morrissey's view of love is, what love means to him. I just found that really fascinating, quite touching actually.
Yeah, and quite revealing. Question number 7. Where did Andy Rourke move to and remain for the rest of his days?
New York.
Correct. He moved to New York. Question number 8. What was Morrissey's first gig?
Morrissey's first gig would have been with the Nosebleeds.
No, sorry. What his first gig that he attended?
Oh, that he attended.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, it was probably T-Rex.
Yeah, correct. And guess the year?
Well, probably like 1978.
72, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so well done. That was good guess.
Thank you.
What was your first gig?
My first gig was oh gosh, I didn't really like live music when I was younger. I mean, it was probably I want to say a Morrissey gig. I think it may well have been.
That's quite cool.
Because I didn't really get into live music until I was a little bit older. So yeah, I mean, I would have seen. I mean, my parents used to take me to those like nostalgia fests, when ABC and Human League would play and stuff. So I've seen some of those. Might have been that, which is less cool.
But Morrissey would have been. Say Morrissey, that was the first.
Yeah.
I think mine wasn't as U2. So.
Oh yeah.
I got forced to go with my dad. Question number 9. Who was the cover star of the Smiths' debut album?
Joe D'Alessandro.
Yes.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
I'm
You're
doing quite
well. You
well.
are doing well, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Have you checked the answers?
No.
I don't trust you. What did Morrissey say should happen to Jamie Oliver?
He probably said something like he should be fried with salt and garlic or something.
That is close, but I can't give it you. Is that your final answer?
No. He said, I would like to roast Jamie Oliver at 180 degrees for 2 hours.
Final answer is quite specific.
Just guessing now.
Okay, that's wrong. He said that he should be gassed.
Oh, gosh. That's extreme.
Yeah, especially because gassing does have certain connotations,
doesn't
doesn't it?
Certain connotations.
Okay, so we're just going to tot up the scores.
Okay. Doobly-doobly-doobly-doobly-doo. Chris is sort of touching the screen and mouthing numbers.
6.4.
Out of 10?
Yeah, I thought you did better than that, but no.
No,
Let me just read your recalculation. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 6.4.
Okay.
How did you guys do at home?
Yeah,
Did you
let us
beat
know.
George?
Yeah, I probably was a bit quick on some of the answers, but hopefully you're pausing just before I answer. Okay, so I'm quite pleased with that. And next we are going to talk again to my grandma, Nanny Val, who's going to react to Once I Saw the River Clean.
Beautiful.
So let's listen to that now.
I walked with my grandmother along the grown-up Talbot Road, in the gardens by the graves. I can just about behave, arrogant and paranoid, all around see fat-head youth, look into their brutal eyes,
Welcome back to the podcast, Nan. I have to tell you, when we went to Moz Army in May, loads and loads of people came up to me and said, "I love your Nanny Val. I love listening to her on the podcast." So that was really nice.
That's very, very nice.
Yeah,
Good, because I always worry about it, as you know.
I know. I had yeah, people just said like it's really interesting to listen to her, and I think people just because we all know the songs so well, I think it's just really nice to hear from a unique perspective what that what you think of the songs, hearing them for the first time. Um so yeah, that was nice. You have lots of admirers out there.
Oh, that's good.
Um, so this time we've asked you to listen to Once I Saw the River Clean, which is from the 2020 album I Am Not a Dog on a Chain. Um, this album, I was just looking at some of the reviews at the time. There's a website that aggregates all the reviews and it gave it 62 out of 100. And I think some people felt there was too much experimental stuff going on. But this particular track, I wouldn't put it in the experimental category. I think it's quite straightforward. And I suppose my first question to you would be, what did you think the story of the song was? What was the narrative to you?
Um, well, initially, obviously, I just thought, like all of us, this was only released about 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And I thought, like all of us, he's probably concerned about the state of our rivers and how they used to be clean and you could, swim in them, etc. And now it's no longer so. But I really didn't have any sort of handle on this. So what I done, being very technically aware, I went on to Google Maps and I put in these the streets that he mentioned.
Yeah.
And it gave me much more of an insight, I felt then, of why he would be walking with his grandmother in those streets, because the first two, which are, 1 minute, I wrote it down somewhere so I know. The first two, which is the Chester Road to Talbot Road, they're in Dublin, and it's about a 50-minute walk, it says on Google Maps. So therefore, he would have gone across the River Liffey. And I think he's comparing how the River Liffey was at the time of his youth, when he was about, again, I've worked it out, I'll tell you why I've worked it out. He was about 13, 14 when he went there with his grandmother. It could have been the time when his granddad died, I'm not sure, because I thought I heard that on his the audiobook that his granddad died about 72, but I may be overthinking that one. But certainly the fact that he walked the whole length from Chester Road to Talbot Road, which crosses the River Liffey, makes a lot of sense. And you can sort of denote the year because decimalisation come in about 71. But then he goes on to say that his granny, with her new pence, bought a pack of 20 number 10s cigarettes for 50 something pence. And he bought metal glue. And again, because I have to do a bit of research, I found that Metal Glue was a Mark Bolan release of 72. So it all sort of tied in with what I was saying. And then I think the second walk was where he said, which is Cornbrook Street, which is Manchester. A few years later, again with his grandmother, because he's saying she can no longer dance free like she used to in Dublin, because I think on their first walk she would have talked about it and said to him, when I was young we used to do this and we used to do that, as I do with you. So does any of that make any sense, or have I gone completely off the rail again?
Well, no, it does make sense, but you've surprised me because I believe that there is a Chester Road in Manchester as well. But I don't think there's a river that runs past there. There might be a canal. So I never considered that some of the geography could be in Ireland and some of it could be in Manchester. But from what you've said, that sounds very possible. And it adds to that sense of time passing, doesn't it? Because you've got Morrissey's looking back, isn't he? And sort of, I think now he's in his 60s. He's thinking, I'm more like my grandma than I am the kid that I was then,
But he's not very old, even in the second one, I don't believe, because he still says that things haven't happened to him. In the first one, he's very convinced. He's saying he's becoming good looking. I can't remember how he said it, but that people would queue up for him. He knew he was going to be successful in the future. And he said about he was pleasing to the eye. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I'm very pleasing to the eye now and that. And he had these, well, not hopes. He was convinced he was going to be successful in the future and happy. The second time, when he was walking with his grandma in Manchester, he still got those same aspirations, but he said they haven't quite happened yet. There's words to that effect. So I think it's still early days, when he was still quite young, before he achieved any real success in singing, you know?
That makes sense. And it's funny, isn't it? Because we all have, when we're younger, we all have dreams and we think we're going to do all these amazing things. And I suppose every now and again, someone's going to be right about that. And in this case, Morrissey was. But do you think he really knew that he was going to be successful, or was he just another person thinking one day I'll make it, you know?
No, I think people that really succeed, they are so focused, they sort of manifest it. They're absolutely determined to get there. And I think they do. You know, I think that's the case with many well-known great people. They've been absolutely determined from when they were young, from 4 or 5, that this was how they were going to go, you know? And they never lose sight of it, despite all the heartaches and the awful things that happen. They still go forward because they know they're going to do it. And I'm sure that's how he's always been.
Yeah, I mean, people have said, it might have even been Mike Joyce saying this at Moz Army last month. Morrissey was a pop star before he was a pop star. He just sort of knew how to do that. So yeah, that does make sense. And what did you think? I quite like the lines when he says, all around see fathead youth, look into their brutal eyes, but only if you want the truth. How did that strike you? What did you think of those lines?
But I think this was him. This was on the first walk, which I, in my funny little mind, think was in Dublin. And I think they were passing people, and he was looking probably too good looking, you know, not your norm. And people were probably eyeing him up and thinking, oh, if you went with your grandmother, you know what I mean? Like, we'd sort you out, you know. So I think he was always aware of that element of threat. He'd been bullied a lot, hadn't he, at different times, because of his appearance and because of his nature. So I just, you know, that was how I summed up that little bit.
I think it's like, it's obviously a very nostalgic song, isn't it? And I think what you said at the start is interesting about the way that the rivers have changed. But the river is like a metaphor in this, isn't it? At one time, everything was pure and simple, and he had ambitions, and then they got polluted, and you know, things. Yes, he did become successful in the end, but there was a lot of heartache and trouble along the way, I think, and I think there probably still is for Morrissey.
Oh yes, yeah, but I think he is concerned with the environment and with everything that way. So if back in whenever he wrote this, it was released in 2020, I think, but I don't know how long it takes to compose a song and to release it. It may be years before, but if he was concerned, he wouldn't just make that statement. He'd make it interesting and make people think about the whole situation. So he would delve back into his youth, I think, and thought of times when the rivers were important to him.
And I think, to the best of my knowledge, I think this is the first time that Morrissey explicitly talks about his grandmother in a song. I'm struggling to think of any other example. I mean, there are references to grandmas, but not his grandmother. Why do you think at this point in his life, you know, 4 years ago, he's thinking now is the time to talk about my grandmother and my relationship with her?
Well, his own mum died, didn't she, about that time? Was that?
Yeah.
Or was that? No, I may be wrong. I'm not quite sure when his mum died. No, she did. She died in 2020. So it could have been at that point. I don't know. But I think he also talks about her quite a lot in his biography.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, she's always part of his life. I think she was very close to him, you know, nurtured him a lot, you know, in the bigger family, because obviously they had a big family unit of all the sisters and cousins and goodness knows what. But it's as if he travelled back to Ireland with her, maybe for a family funeral, his granddad or something, but they probably did, because it's not, a big crossing to get across to Ireland, is it, from
No, and I
that
think
part of the country?
he did. I don't know the geography very well, but I think he did have. I think he'd bought his mother a house in Ireland, and so he probably would have been traveling back and forth, and yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So she says, sorry, he says, she would never be again a Dublin dancer, free and young. Do you think Morrissey is sort of sympathizing with how his grandma must have felt at the time, now that he is getting on a little bit and he's not going to be free and young again?
Well, obviously, I've only looked at this a couple of days, and I could well have misunderstood what I was thinking. But as I say, the second walk, I think, is a few years later, not late, in his late teens maybe, and he's walking again with his grandmother. And I think they would have talked. I only think of it as I would do with you or with any of my grandchildren. We'd walked along, we'd say, oh, remember when we did this, and we walked along in Dublin, and and she would have said, and I told you all about when I used to go dancing, and I'd done this and I'd done that. So I think it's just that they're recalling the previous times they had together, the previous walk.
Yes.
That's how I saw it, is and him just trying to create this story for us. But ultimately, I think the message is about pollution of our rivers and the way things are, not being looked after. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, because primarily Morrissey is concerned with animal rights, but that does bleed into environmental concerns.
Yeah.
And he's
He'll often save wildlife and things, doesn't he? Things like that.
Yeah.
So,
And just for a bonus, the first song that I sent you was the last of the famous international playboys, but you said I'm not quite getting the hang of this one. But just in a sentence or two, what did you think when you heard it?
well, because it was related to the Krays, who I wouldn't glamorize anyway. Obviously, they were more of my era.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have glamorized any. So I didn't consider them playboys. They were thugs. I mean, they had a huge following, but they weren't anyone to glorify or to celebrate, I thought. So I thought, oh, I don't think I can get into this and really look into it too deeply, because it's not my bag. I'm not with this one at all.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That is fair enough. Yeah, there's several different ways of looking at it, but Morrissey has always said he's fascinated by the romance of crime, so that's maybe just an unavoidable, slightly ugly element, but there we go.
And many people are, especially about the Krays. I mean, they were a legend, to the East End, etc., and that in London. But obviously, as with many people of that nature, that caliber, they were very protective of their own and of the local people, and that they idolized them because they always felt under the protection, like you would in Italy under the mafia, if they were looking after you. Do you know what I mean? You're afraid of them, but at the same time, they protect you against outsiders. And this was how it was with the Krays. But yeah. No, I probably get a different stance on it when I listen to the podcast from your point of view, you and Chris. I'll probably see a different, because obviously any of these songs and that, as I said, you can't take them literally. You have to we're doing exactly what I think Morrissey intends, that we discuss it and think deeper into it rather than just take anything surface value,
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. Okay, well, we shall leave it there. Thank you very much for doing this again. And we'll see you next month.
Okay, my love. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Nan.
Bye, darling. Bye-bye.
It's always so lovely to hear your Nanny Val.
My nanny.
Your nanny. It's a great song as well that she's talking about this time.
Yes, yeah. Have I mentioned this on the podcast before? The thing about my cousin when she was at university, and she went to a posh uni, went to Bristol, and she would be on the phone, and her friends said, "Oh, who are you talking to?" She said, "I'm talking to my nanny." And they said, "Oh, it's so nice that you're still in touch with your nanny." So no, it's my grandma.
It's not something we use in my family. I think we use nono, but that's also a bit more common maybe.
So next we're going to do If You Love Morrissey, Then You'll Love This. Shall I go first?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I discovered this documentary when I was at university. I went to the University of Hull, where Philip Larkin, one of my heroes, was for a long time the head librarian. He ran the library. So at the university, you could search the DVD catalogues, and I found a DVD of this. It's called Larkin and Betjeman, Down Cemetery Road. Now, you don't have to go to the Hull University Library to watch this. It's on the iPlayer, and it's also on YouTube.
The iPlayer.
The iPlayer, yeah. So it's black and white. It's Sir John Betjeman travelling to Hull to meet Philip Larkin, and they walk around the places that have inspired his poetry. So churches, shopping. I was going to say shopping malls, but they were department stores. Marks and Spencer's or whatever. And it is just the most beautiful documentary. One of the most beautiful documentaries I've ever seen. It's only about half an hour, but there's this great love and appreciation between these two poetry greats, and there's Sir John Betjeman says, Philip, I envy you because you have a day job. You don't have to write to live, whereas I sometimes have to write a poem just to pay the bills. And there's another bit when Larkin says, the thing about poetry criticism is I wonder if they ever think that I might agree with them. When they say that my poetry is pedestrian or boring or mundane, he's saying, well, sometimes I agree with what they're saying. But yeah, it's also just another world. It's the Hull of maybe 50 years ago now. It's a different time. It's black and white. It's an era when poetry was still quite popular. These days only a few seem to break through.
Yeah.
Now that leads us on to your recommendation, which I believe is poetry.
Yeah, so it's very highbrow, these recommendations.
Yes.
So yeah. I went recently to a poetry night. It was John Cooper Clarke, but he also had a lot of poetry nights they have the big name at the start, and John was great, really entertaining. But there was also a couple of others there, and one was Mike Garry, who was also pretty big, probably not so well known in certain places, but pretty big in the poetry world, to be fair. He was hilarious, but he had a poem called. He's got a book called Men's Mornings. It's by Mike Garry,
and that's mornings with a U, is it?
Yeah.
Like morning, like a funeral morning.
Yeah. So it's sort of and a lot of his spiel was around men being in touch. I think he was the head librarian again at Central Manchester Library for a long time. Helped works with a lot of like younger guys and getting them people who probably wouldn't necessarily be into poetry or into writing, and got them into that. Which I suppose is another link to Morrissey, like a working class, white young guy who's wouldn't naturally be the person who would go into poetry really. And there's lots of poems in there that are quite interesting, and a lot of them they're linked to sort of Manchester, and I suppose the early days of the Smiths, when a lot of the lyrics in the Smiths were about Manchester. So that there's a lot of links there, which I think is a really good read. The poem that I'm going to talk about is called Saint Anthony, which is about Tony Wilson, or part of his life.
Manchester legend, journalist, music
signer,
and record label boss,
buried in Southern Cemetery down the road. So just I'm only going to read one of the lines because I'm not really a poetry reader, but one that mentions Morrissey. So, the Queen, the queers, the quiet ones, all shy and self-effacing, like Morrissey, but not Mark E. Smith or Sean Ryder when he's been freebasing. So there's a
What's freebasing? Is that drugs?
Good question. I don't know what that means, but yeah, it's an interesting read, and I think if you can go to one of his shows, great. But if you can get the book or read, he's got a few poems that mention Morrissey. You can tell that Morrissey and the Smiths are and many other bands from Manchester are big influences on him. So that's great.
So that's Men's Mornings, Mournings, Men's Mornings by Mike Garry. That's Garry with 2 R's. And mine was Larkin and Betjeman, Down Cemetery Road, which you can find on iPlayer if you're in the UK, and YouTube if you are elsewhere.
Yeah.
So next we are going to dissect the meanings of 3 Morrissey and Smith songs. So we are going to do The Last of the Famous International Playboys, November Spawned a Monster, both of those obviously by Morrissey solo, and then finally What She Said by the Smiths. So let's dive into that.
Dear hero imprisoned, with all the new crimes that you are perfecting. Oh, I can't help quoting you, 'cause everything that you said rings true. And now in my cell, well, I followed you. And here's a list of who I slew. Reggie Craig, do you know my name? Oh, don't say that, we say that.
George Allen, Do You Know My Face?
Yes, I do.
Playboys, Last of the International Playboys. What does this song mean to you?
Well, I think what you've got here is an interesting double meaning. So the crux of the song is that Morrissey is writing from the point of view of an aspiring criminal who wants to be in the big leagues with Ronnie and Reggie Cray, and he wants to give a list of everyone he's ever stabbed so that he can achieve this high status. He's writing this from a cell, a prison cell. But you've also got this, the other side of the coin, which is sort of like a fan talking to Morrissey. You know, so he's saying, I can't help quoting you because everything that you say rings true. And in my cell, which is, in the music video, you've got the teenager in his bedroom. You know, so the cell is like a bedroom.
Yeah.
And he wants, the fan wants to achieve the same great heights of Morrissey. So I think you've got those two things kind of going on. But essentially it's a song, isn't it, about an aspiring gangster. But then you've also got this weird other bit, which is I'm the last of the famous international playboys, which doesn't really fit the rest of the song. Do you know what I mean?
But would the likes of Ronnie and Reggie see themselves as international playboys, just like the person who the song's about?
Yeah, maybe they would.
I think it talks about when Morrissey, because he's mentioned Ronnie and Reggie Cray in the past, glamorizing that, but also attended the premiere for Legend, which was the Tom Hardy's film where he played the Cray twins.
Yeah.
So there's all those links as well.
Oh well, of course. That's well trodden ground. We know that Morrissey is fascinated by the romance of crime.
Yes.
And this is a big demonstration of that. You know, and I think I read that Ronnie and Reggie Cray did hear about this song, and they were quite perplexed. You know, that this pop singer wanted to reference them. So he did. In the end, they did know his name. I don't think they did before that. Can't imagine Ronnie and Reggie Cray being Morrissey fans, but you know, who knows?
Who knows?
So it's one of the more easier to understand Morrissey songs, I think, because sometimes his songs can be so obscure you wonder what the hell is he talking about. This one kind of makes sense, but I think to open with that line of I can't help quoting you because everything that you say rings true. It's so obviously designed for the fan to hear that and think, yes, that's how I feel about you, Morrissey. You know.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting. I only noticed this for the first time when we just watched the video that in the music video, you've obviously got the teenager in his bedroom, and then you've got Morrissey and the band with a green background. And I thought, oh wait, that's a green screen. So they must have originally planned to put some kind of background on it. And then in the end, they probably thought, actually, it looks quite cool with just a green.
Yeah, possibly.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's that colour of green, which they use for green screens.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So I don't know what the video could have looked like in an alternative universe. But doesn't Morrissey look handsome in that video?
It's a really cool video, the dancing and everything. Yeah. Which I suppose moves on well into the next one, November Spawned a Monster, which is also a very cool music video.
Cracking video.
Playing harmonica on a chocolate bar.
Yeah. Okay, so should we listen to that now?
Yeah, let's go ahead, yeah.
And if the lights were out, could you even bear to kiss her full on the mouth or anywhere? Oh, twisted charm.
November spawned a monster. This music video, I always think to myself, this is the music video I'd play to somebody to decide if they're my kind of person. And if they think this is the coolest thing they've seen, then they are my kind of person, because the video is just amazing. And the lyrics and the song. Yeah. And if they don't like it, then I don't like them.
Yeah. It is a good... I mean, I wouldn't quite use it as a friendship test, but it is a good video. If someone has not heard of Morrissey, you say, okay, just watch this video. They'll watch it and go, what the frig is this?
Yeah,
You know, and they'll either be kind of what you're saying, enchanted,
Yeah.
or they'll think, sorry, that's just too weird for me. Because this is essentially a song about a child who's born with disabilities, and I'm not sure if people use the word deformity anymore because it's got quite negative, connotations, but that is what he's talking about. So a child who is born different with disabilities, and I suppose I think it's really brave to write a song about this. But you've also got, I think that he is talking to himself as much as he's talking to this fan. He says, dream on, and sleep and dream of love, because it's the closest you'll ever get to love. I think that he's putting himself in that child's position.
I think confronting the prejudice as well is quite, like you say, it's quite a big thing to take on in a song.
I mean, he says there's some really quite challenging lines in this song. I mean, there's a bit when he says, if the lights were out, would you even dare to kiss her full on the mouth or anywhere? That's like kind of horrible.
Yeah.
But I don't think Morrissey's being horrible. He's acknowledging the reality of the situation, in which these parents are kind of horrified by their own child.
Their own creation, yeah.
But he sees hope, I think, because he ends the song, doesn't he, with one fine day, let it be soon. She won't be rich or beautiful, but she'll be walking the streets in the clothes that she went and
I
chose
love those.
for
I love
herself.
those lines. Yeah.
Although, do you remember at university, my friend Ross, who you'd met actually, he said of this song, what happened to the wheelchair? Because she's in a wheelchair and all of a sudden she's walking the streets.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
She's cured.
Yeah, because that is the issue, because it's like, I don't think what Morrissey's asking for is a miracle. I think he's saying, let's stop patronising this person. Let's let them choose their own clothes. And then I think he just made a mistake in saying walking the streets, because I don't think he's saying she's going to be, a heavenly miracle is going to help her walk again. What do you think of the song? Do you think it's...
I think it's one of those songs that really, like, it is really emotive for me, and I think those lines at the end, you can do your own, if you might not be the most attractive person ever, because obviously this song is made for everybody to listen to.
Yeah.
And you can feel confident then to be your own person. You haven't got to be a mirror image of everybody else. I sort of think of myself lying in bed and sort of shaking from side to side with this like really powerful song. Yeah.
I think it does. I think that you may not have disabilities and you may not be like the child that's talked about in the song, but we all have inherited family trauma and mental illnesses and stuff, and you can feel like a monster sometimes, and so I think that there's a way of listening to the song where he's speaking to you. And also I just think this is why I love Morrissey, because who else would write a pop song about this subject? I think I remember reading in the Mozopedia, Simon Goddard, isn't it? He says, in the preface, that Morrissey is the kind of artist who will write songs about disabilities, about prostitution, about this, about that. Like, that's the mark of a strong artist. It's not all, I love him, he doesn't love me, we've broken up, now I'm sad,
Yeah. There's only so many songs you can do about those things.
Yeah. Well, the charts would say otherwise.
Yeah.
So what...
but yeah, I think it's a great song, and the bonus is you get to see Morrissey trying to hump a rock in the video if you watch the video. Okay, so
I think Morrissey had taken a few sweeties before filming.
I think I'd have to if I was going to do that. But I love it. He looks amazing in it. He looks so cool. He looks so. His silhouette is amazing in the desert. I guess that's North America somewhere.
Yeah.
So next we have What She Said.
Okay, by the Smiths.
Smiths. Yep.
Okay, let's listen to that now.
Took a touching board from Birkenhead. She wrote it
So that was What She Said by the Smiths. Chris, my glass is looking a little bit empty.
Oh, okay. So we've got another bottle. What's this bottle called, George?
It's called Connoisseur. Get it?
Kind of.
It's Reserva Especial from...
This is another Chilean wine.
Oh, Chilean, from 2018.
Yeah, it's Chilean.
So $9.99, discounted to £7.25. Fill her up. Oh, it looks a bit light.
Oh, it does. Is it corked? Whatever that means.
Or is it not?
No, it looks... It's like cranberry juice.
Yeah, okay. So, What She Said, possibly my favourite, I think it is my favourite Smiths song. And it's, essentially about the difference between reading about life and living life, isn't it? So this character, she's sitting in her bedroom reading philosophical texts and smoking herself to death. But when she meets the tattooed boy from Birkenhead,
Who really opens her thighs.
her eyes, her world explodes, and she understands what all these people were writing about all this time. That is, to me, what it's about. It's like, don't live your life with your head in the book all the time. You have to sometimes live it.
Yes, yeah. And that's a theme that goes through a lot of Morrissey songs, isn't it? I think this song, to me, just a bit of... it's really special to me because when Morrissey played the song in Hull in 2015, and it was the wildest Morrissey show I've been to, and I've been to a few, and it was really wild, and it was in this desolate arena.
It's like an ice rink. I think.
Ice rink, or whatever it was. It was, yeah. And Morrissey said, I think he said, in about 10 minutes' time, my ass will be leaving town. Be on it.
Yeah.
And that was just a great end to the show. And it was so wild.
I wonder if Morrissey remembers that gig, because I also remember it was electric. It just had that
very
electric
much,
feeling.
Yeah, very much so.
It's like anything could happen.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was just like, we can't quite believe that Morrissey's come to this shitty venue to perform. And it was quite small, wasn't it? One of the smallest gigs I've been to.
It was, yeah, which is nice. We like those.
Oh,
don't
yeah,
we?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was packed, but I just mean, it wasn't like seeing him at an arena, which I really don't like. And if there's any chance that Morrissey's listening to this, please don't play too many arenas, because we just don't get to feel that intimacy. But yeah, that whole gig was amazing. Hull, which is the only place in the UK that doesn't have BT. Do you know that?
Really?
They have KC, it's a rival company, and their telephone boxes are white, not red.
Really?
Yeah.
Very strange place.
The only place that BT doesn't monopolise.
But yeah, What She Said was great there.
So what do you think of the meaning of the song?
Well, I agree with you. I think especially around the wanting to cling to something. I like that lyric, because I think that's very true. And I think just going back onto what we were saying there around being there for that, listening to that song live in Hull, which I think he's done it a few times when I've been, but that was stand out. And that's why I really want to go to the, I can't really afford the amount of shows that I've been to for Morrissey, and I can't really afford to go to Vegas, but I want to be there. I want to have been there in the moment when it happens. I don't want to miss out on that, and I don't want to in 25 years' time be thinking, oh, well, I could have been there.
Yeah,
it was possible, even if it was not easy.
This song, of course, is quite inspired by the book by Elizabeth Smart, by Grand Central Station, I Sat Down and Wept, which I read as a late teenager, and I don't think you can read that book unless you are a teenager. It's a novella, so it's a short book. It's really quite short. You can read it in an afternoon or less, but it's incredibly vivid imagery and pain, and I think essentially, if I remember rightly, Elizabeth's, it's kind of autobiographical, I think, and she invites this man to come and stay with her. They've been having a love affair by letter, but he brings his wife. So it's like this three-way love triangle tangle, and that is where the line about "I smoke because I'm hoping for an early death and I need to cling to something" is inspired by that novella. I mean, even if you're not a teenager, it's probably worth reading. But I just think it's just that kind of angsty kind of vibe that, I imagine if I read it now, I'd just think, oh, get over yourself. But when you're a teenager, everything means a lot more.
It does, yeah.
So that is our song lyric dissection, and that kind of takes us to the end, I think. We didn't have an interview this week. I just kind of feel like not every episode has to have an interview because that's just the way podcasts work, isn't it? Every time you have somebody new on. But next time we hopefully will have one. So I will bid you adieu and Godspeed. Anything you'd like to say, Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to. We had the All About Andy Moz Army last weekend.
Yes.
I just wanted to do a shout out to Simone and Gail who bought us some Jaeger bombs at the bar.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted us to do a shout out.
We could only get the Jaeger bombs if we agreed to do this.
Yeah, and we got the free Jaeger bombs, and we don't want to sacrifice or risk not getting Jaeger bombs in the future if we don't do a shout out. I think also I was going to say. You don't need awards, but I'm really glad and proud of you that you've been shortlisted alongside prestigious other publications,
Yes.
and your lowly Morrissey Mercury, which is there too. So yeah, congratulations.
Yes. So prayers of good luck, please, that
Yes.
we might possibly win.
Yes.
So I think we find out in
And
July.
sabotage the competition.
Yes.
That's what we need to do. That's important.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it. It's only one tap. It's not such a big deal to you, but we appreciate every subscriber. And you know what? Just please tell someone about this podcast if you've enjoyed it, because it's all about word of mouth. We do it all for free because we love it. We hope you enjoy it too. Until next time, speak soon and stay handsome.